I'm joined by Nikki Rosecrans, the Chief Information Security Officer for Arapahoe County, Colorado. Nikki, thank you so much for taking the time to join us again this year at the GovRAMP Cyber Summit.
Thank you for having me again, Jason.
You were on a panel earlier at the GovRAMP Cyber Summit focused on threat intelligence, and I think this is a fascinating discussion for multiple reasons. I want to start with, what is your thoughts? What were some of those things from the panel that you highlighted? What about threat intelligence is top of mind these days?
Yeah, it really is a lifeline and a challenge for us in the state and local government. The challenge is that sometimes information can't be shared, whether that be an organization that may be experiencing a cybersecurity attack at the moment and is advised by legal not to share, or we're not getting the information fast enough. And then the lifeline to it is the resources that we rely on, such as MSISAC, CISA, up until a few days ago. But then also our private sector partners and federal partners. It really does go hand in hand to be able to receive information that is not only timely, but that is relevant, to be able to assess that to our organization and respond or get that information out, shared quickly to our internal herders.
We'll jump into the MSI-SAC changes, CISA changes, but let me just pull back. One of the big challenges that I've heard over the years when it comes to state and local is having cleared professionals. I don't know if you have a clearance, but if there's something happening on the high side that's classified, they can't share it with you, even though you kind of need to know because could affect your systems, a ransomware attack or something. Is that still an issue today as it was 10, 12, 15 years ago? Has that been mostly solved, or you're going to do it depends?
Well,
it depends.
It probably depends. And you know what? I will say that I think we're still seeing that. Unfortunately, there are actually organizations that have been impacted by a significant cybersecurity attack. And I'll just bring up the state of Nevada. They experienced a significant cyber attack a few weeks ago. And all that we knew was that there were certain agencies that were down, but I think that the communication of what the actual cyber incident wasn't communicated publicly, at least. It hasn't been communicated locally either.
Have they also not communicated to CISOs to say to you, by the way, if you have this type of software or this type of setup, you may have a problem?
Yes. Yeah.
They haven't done that?
No, they have not. Right.
So that is that part of the frustration with kind of that information sharing side? I mean, they're in Congress, they're still trying to renew the CISA Information Sharing Act, but is the information sharing is where that threat intelligence sometimes you need a little more?
You do want a little more, and I also want to respect that the state of Nevada, for instance, is currently under a cybersecurity attack, or they were. So I do want to give them time to respond to that, because that's what really their focus is, and it should be. But at the same time, it does get a little, I would say, frustrating when we can't have that information. We don't know what happened. We don't know what was impacted. We don't know if it was a third-party vendor, how that attack started. What is that cyber attack? Is it something that, like you said, is relevant to us? Do we have a tool of theirs?
I think one of the challenges has been attackers don't look at boundaries, don't look at lines, right? They look for the vulnerabilities, and if you have a vulnerability that Nevada has, or Oklahoma has it, or whoever, they're just going to look for that vulnerability. So I think that's why this idea of threat intelligence has become more important. How do you all use it today? How has it changed? Give me a sense of kind of the importance of it. How much more important today as it was than maybe a year ago, 5 years ago?
Yeah. So we ingest multiple threat intelligence through the MSISAC advisories, through CVEs, through MITRE, through our federal partners, through state and local within state of Colorado, through a group called the Friendship Group in the whole of state. So we have many ways of receiving information, threat intelligence information. And then you also have your third-party vendors, right? So any third-party vendor that you have a contract with, you look at those service level agreements, and you want to make sure that those agreements say a time that those vendors have to communicate with you, whether it's a vulnerability like a 0-day that was exploited, whether they experience any kind of cyber incident, whether it just be an operational disruption, or if there was some sort of cybersecurity incident. So we receive it in multiple ways.
Do you find that you're using it much more today? Like you're depending on it in ways that maybe you didn't depend on it previously?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And that comes in, these alerts and information sharing will come in every day. And it's so important that my team take a look at all of that information that comes in to make sure that we are not missing the step of actually seeing information that would apply to our organization. We do have certain security tools in place, which is helpful. Absolutely. I mean, as you know, if you have CrowdStrike, for instance, that they evaluate 870,000 incidents. Well, there's only 4 people on our security team. So how do you evaluate all of, those alerts? So there's multiple. Yeah, it's critical.
I was going to even ask, have you started to dip your toe or even go down to the knees in yet in terms of AI automation? Have you started to kind of try to take advantage of some of those tools?
Yes. So Arapahoe County finalized its ethical AI policy this past year. We have an AI hub built, and then we also have training and guidelines for our employees. It's a very new journey, I would say, for Arapahoe County, trying to really assess tools, not only from a generative AI model, but from large language models as well. And then also tools that have AI to produce outcomes for certain businesses. So we have a method to evaluate these vendors, not only from an AI side, ethical side, but also from a security and compliance standpoint.
And just to deal with all that data as well,
Yeah.
without the, I hear this all the time, you're not going to hire your way out of the data. To your point, if there's 600 and 860,000 different data points coming in, no, you're never going to have enough people to do it all. So I imagine, let's talk a little bit about the change. You mentioned federal partners dependent on CISA. You mentioned the ISAC. CISA's support of the ISAC is going away, they announced. What does that mean for you at the state and local level?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a big deal. We have to take that back to our legal team and try to understand what information we can now share with CISA until hopefully that agreement is renewed, right? But until then, we still have the services of the CIS, MSISAC, so we're still receiving those alerts and advisories every day. We're still receiving those services that they provide, but it's a big deal. I mean, our CISA partner and myself are very connected. We have a personal relationship to where if there is something that is, for instance, we just had the Cisco ASA device, right? My partner had called me directly and had said, hey, Nikki, do you use this product? We have a briefing at, 1 o'clock this afternoon. You should get on. That it was valuable.
Do you worry that type of communication will end? Or is that, hey, it's relationship based and you and Mary or Joe, or whoever it is on the other side of the phone, will keep that going. But if that person leaves, that's where that becomes a little more difficult.
Yeah, both. Actually, I do worry because I don't want to put my CISA partner in jeopardy whatsoever and have him breach his contract. And then also, if he did leave, then who would be my next partner, and would we have the same relationship?
Outside of CISA and the ISAC, how do you share within other state and local agencies, whether it's the state of Colorado or more broadly throughout the country?
Yeah, so the state of Colorado specifically, we have the HSAC Cybersecurity Committee, and then we also have a friendship group. So the friendship group is comprised of all CISOs around the state of Colorado. We share information via email. We have a specified communication channel, and then we also have a call once a month. I am very close with our U.S. Secret Service agents, and then I always keep in contact with our FBI agent to make sure that he is our point of contact still. So every quarter, updating our CERT plan basically is what that is. Our U.S. Secret Service agents and myself, though, are really connected, along with our digital forensic officer in our sheriff's office. So it's really nice to have different sources of information to pull from and then also to share abroad.
Yeah, you've just described just the difficulties of any CISO's job, but at the state and local level, it's probably fewer resources and just as difficult. Let's talk a little bit about GovRAMP and how you view services like that. What does it do to make your life a little easier? How are you kind of taking advantage of some of the existing certifications of vendors and the like? Yes,
huge. I mean, I rely on them heavily at the county level. And the reason for that is most cyber attacks will always start from an MSSP provider or a third-party service provider. So having that comfort, knowing that they are either GovRAMP authorized, GovRAMP ready, FedRAMP high, FedRAMP moderate, that is comforting to know that they are going through a rigorous process to ensure that they are keeping up to date with the vulnerabilities within their systems. It gives us a sense of security.
One of the things when I spoke with the folks at GovRAMP, they talked about moving into the high side, the high baseline. I've talked to a couple of folks in your position in the state and local and asked, is that something that's of interest to you? Do you think you'll have a need? Have you started to consider, oh, that system may be better for a high baseline, or I haven't really thought about it, but I could see some opportunities. How have you started looking at that?
Yes. And we have it written into our procurement language. I do have to update that since that, but we have it written into our procurement language, and we have it outlined for our larger vendors who transmit or process some of the most sensitive data. So your personally identifiable information, CJIS information, your PHI, that protected health information. So that is a part of our requirement for those third-party vendors.
To eventually get to the high baseline, or to be at the high baseline, yeah.
Right.
And then at the same time, you also have some of the federal requirements. Unemployment insurance, I know, has gotten a lot of attention for concerns about fraud. I know healthcare data, CMS, same thing. So I imagine that also plays into it, though. That may happen at the state level. It gets flowed down to you.
The Colorado Privacy Act. Yep.
Yeah. We talked a little about FedRAMP. We talked threat intelligence. Other priorities you have? What are some of those other things you're trying to get done in the next year from a Arapahoe County cybersecurity perspective?
Yeah, so I think we've done a really good job of gaining our trust from our stakeholders, so that buy-in. This year, we're going to roll out browser protection, so URL filtering basically, which would allow us more security up in that browser layer to understand what our employees are doing, where they're visiting. As we all know, that a new website that has just been stood up, 3 days ago is probably, not legit. You want to make sure that you're checking that out. And then also to help us catalog our SaaS applications, right? Because that's another risk within the county. We are going to roll out our first security information event management system in Q3. So continuing the journey on maturing the county. I'd also like to actually formalize a county risk appetite statement and catalog what our organizational risks are, our financial risks are, our reputational risks, and so forth.
This idea of risk is huge. The enterprise risk management is really what you're really talking about, because it's not just cyber risk, but it's all the pieces and parts that could be affected and understanding. Is that something that you're not going to do on your own? You'll pull in some of the other folks that you work with in the county. But is the cyber risk something that you're seeing them accept, understand, be able to address within these other kind of risk areas?
Yes, absolutely. But you have to be a good storyteller in order to gain the buy-in of your stakeholders. You have to be able to translate the technology language into simple language, right? Human simple language, to something that they understand, and that'll get your executives and Board of County Commissioners to kind of realize, okay, this is a really big risk. Because you think about it, our technology systems are basically our digital oxygen throughout the organization. And what happens when an application or a system goes down? You're now going to have to pull out your business of continuity plans, your operation resilience, right? And how are you going to continue service while this technology is down? And how long will that take?
For a CISO, that sometimes is the most difficult thing to do, because cybersecurity tends to be like, well, you want me to invest in the cybersecurity? Well, what will it get for me? Well, we'll stop the attack. How do I know that? I'm not sure how to prove it. You prove the negative.
Yes, yeah, you do. And that's the important part of tiering all of your applications and your systems, and then finding those recovery time objectives, and then those RPOs as well. And yes, I would say that information service catalog is crucial.
And I think that's part of kind of what is on your to-do list.
Yes.
So obviously very busy.
Yes.
Of course.
Oh, yes.
Nikki, I've very much enjoyed our time today, so let me thank my guest. Nikki Rosecrans is the Chief Information Security Officer at the Arapahoe County, Colorado. Thank you so much for joining me at GovRAMP Cyber Summit.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate it.
Exactly.